how it's evolving when it comes to stuff like that, because I feel like we are starting to get more and more apps that are starting to run, and I think Steam Deck's probably part of that.
Yeah, Steam Deck's like been massive for game support, especially though. Like Valve, I've talked about the Steam Deck so many times, but Valve dropped the ball so hard when they did Steam machines. I don't know what they were
Absolutely.
thinking, because what, like 6 months, a year later, they had the first version of Proton. Like,
Yes.
what are you doing? I'm sure
Yes.
maybe like some engineer wanted to push it out. Maybe they thought they would get developer support. I really would like to talk to someone from Valve who was there at the time, who knows why Steam machines came out when they did. Because I can imagine a completely different history if Steam machines dropped alongside Proton. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think it would have been like this massive thing that everyone adopted. But I do think it would be a lot less of a failure.
Absolutely. 100%. Because I mean, at the time, like the support was just so minimal.
You had I know
I
you had
don't know what
Shadow
they
of
were thinking.
Mordor. That was one AAA game that did exist, but
Yeah.
what
Very
else?
few.
What else was there? You play
Very
Counter
few.
Strike?
Yeah.
Like Counter Strike on anything?
Just about. Just about. But yeah, yeah, I would be curious to hear that conversation. I'm looking forward to that episode of Tech Over Tea when you get that one to happen.
Yeah, I'll see if I can rope anyone into doing it. I'm getting slowly closer and closer to someone at Valve. I've been talking to Glorious Eggroll, the Proton GE guy. So like I'll get him on the show. If I get him on the show, maybe then I can get someone low at Valve. Eventually it's gonna happen. Eventually I'll find out why. Because if I get someone from Valve on the show, like just listen. You are going to be asked this question. I am not going to let you leave until you answer this question. I want to know.
I mean, it's probably going to be the first question. Like, I just don't think you'll be able to stop yourself at that
No,
point.
definitely not.
I don't blame you.
Because I
Because it
remember
is
when
one of the most puzzling things.
the Steam Machine came out. Like, what year was this? When did Steam Machines happen? This is gonna 20. Oh my god, it happened in 2015. Oh, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it was 2014, 2015.
Yeah, that was so long ago. I had introduced 2014 and then released date 2015. Why? Why? Just why?
I don't know. But I thought the Proton was a couple years later. But
Maybe it was a
maybe
bit
that was
later.
just
Yeah, maybe it was
maybe
like
that was
three
when
years
it
later.
actually became like a thing instead of being talked about.
Um,
Um,
Release. Let's see.
because I thought it was like 2018. Because I
My
feel like
actually,
I switched to Linux
I was okay.
around that same time.
No, I was wrong. It was a bit. It was a couple years later. Either way, why? Maybe Proton only happened because the Steam machines failed.
Could be.
Hmm.
I mean, very possible. I heard. I feel like I was just getting into the Linux community. I think right around then, and so
Mhm.
people were all about like, oh well, they're trying to step away from Windows and trying to find out. And I mean, maybe that's true. I don't know, but it's something where obviously they got discouraged or concerned about something about Windows' direction. I would assume
Uh,
because
Gaben has talked about the Windows App Store being a concern.
uh,
Worried
that
about it
makes
sort of
sense.
becoming like the Apple ecosystem where, you can download apps off the internet for a Mac device, but most people are going to get their apps from the App Store, and he was worried that Windows would go that same direction. It hasn't because no one
Fair.
cares. Like, there are UWP apps that exist, but they're their own thing, and most people haven't adopted them in the same way.
Well, I don't know if they're still doing it, but I remember maybe it was when my parents got their latest PC. It's now
Mhm.
running Windows 10 or 11, I don't remember now. But at one point it was like, do you want to allow apps from other sources to be installed? Like really tries to hammer you into that
Yeah.
Windows store.
Yup. Yeah, I can see why they'll want you to do that though. Like, it they're gonna justify it with security and private. If they try to justify it with privacy, that's hilarious. But they're gonna try to
That is
justify it
kind of
with
hard.
security and safety and no viruses, things like that. But it does put a lot of control in the hands of Microsoft, which would Microsoft would love if they could just have a Android or an iOS like ecosystem where the only apps you installed they were coming from the Windows Store. If you wanted an app on
Hmm.
the on Windows, it's coming through the Windows Store.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, Proton came out, and I actually I want to say it was just a couple months after that I ended up checking out Linux again, and that's when I first started really using it. So it's been an interesting kind of time to
Mhm.
see that develop even from that point, because even since that time, I feel like Linux gaming has come so far. I
Yeah,
mean, that was a huge step for it, but even since then, like it's crazy the
I
amount of support I feel like it's gotten.
I believe yeah, here we go. Liam Dore put out an article on Gaming on Linux not that long ago. 10,000 games marked as verified and playable on the Steam Deck.
That's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy.